Welcome to today's session of writing a synopsis. This writing a synopsis is part of 2 programs that is being run by the discipline of Anthropology, School of Social Sciences. Now let us see what is writing a synopsis all about and in which course writing a synopsis is necessary. First of all, we have the dissertation BANE 154. It is in the 6th semester of Bachelor of Science Honours Anthropology program. Then we have dissertation MANP 001, which is in the 2nd year of Masters of Arts Anthropology program. So, within the discipline of anthropology, there are 2 programs in which writing a synopsis becomes compulsory. Now, why do we have to write a synopsis? Dissertation basically is about fieldwork. And before a learner goes to the field, one has to write a synopsis. And this synopsis would give us the gist of what the learner wants to do in the fieldwork. Now, what is fieldwork in anthropology? In anthropological parlance, going to the field is central to the study of anthropology because the study of anthropology deals with human beings and human beings cannot be studied in a laboratory setup. We have to be with the people in their own surrounding, in their own setup so that we can understand their everyday life. And to understand the everyday life, we conduct field work. In the earlier days when fieldwork was started in anthropology, the anthropologist used to go to a far-off place and live with the locals for a long extended period of time. And during the period of time, the anthropologist also used to learn the local language so that communication becomes easier between the people on the study and the anthropologist. But in today's parlance, field is anywhere where we have human beings. And today, anthropology is not concerned only with the quote-unquote other, but with also the self. And thus, we have the field in our own very society. The field can be an organization, an institution, or it can be any space where we have human beings. You can, for example, go for the study of the orphanages. You can go for the study of the slum areas near your places, or you can go for a study among the school teachers, the rickshaw pullers, the youths of your locality, anything that comprises your field area. So, in synopsis, one of the important aspects that we have to find is a field area. Now, let us go back to our session on writing a synopsis. So, as I have already stated, in dissertation BANE 154, in the 6th semester, we have the discipline-specific elective course. That is a 6-credit course and it is optional. It is not compulsory. Dissertation is not compulsory in your Bachelor of Science Honours in Anthropology program. It is a discipline-specific optional course which you can select in the 6th semester of your program. Now, going back to the dissertation in Master's program, in Master's program 2nd year, it is a core course. That means it is a compulsory course and anyone who is enrolled in Masters of Arts Anthropology would have to complete this as part of their coursework. And it is a 8-credit course for Masters of Arts Anthropology program. Now, let's see what are the requirements for dissertation, that is BANE 154 and MANP 001. The requirements are, first of all, in this course you will have to prepare a synopsis. This synopsis would then have to be sent to your program coordinator for approval, and before you send it for approval, it has to be signed and accepted by a mentor that the mentor is going to to work with you in your dissertation, is going to guide and help you in your dissertation. Thereafter, once the synopsis is approved by the program coordinator, you will go for your field work. And once you have completed your field work of 15 to 20 days, you will come back and write the report, which is also known as the dissertation, the final outcome of your field work. Now, preparing a synopsis. What are the components that you would have to look into while you are preparing your synopsis? The first requirement is that you will need a mentor for your synopsis and for your dissertation. You can look for a mentor in your own study center. You can visit your study center and reach out to any of the mentors that are available there. The mentors can be the academic counselors who counsels you during the weekends. You can meet them, but before you meet them, there are certain things that you need to take care of as a learner. The first thing is selecting a topic. Now, how do you select a topic? There are many criteria for selecting a topic. As I had earlier said, selecting a topic would involve going to the field. So, before you select a topic, you have to understand the accessibility and feasibility of the field area and the topic that you are going to work on. Say, for example, you take up the topic of a slum area. You want to study the conditions, the living conditions of the people in a slum area. Now, the slum area is a broad topic. So that would become the universe of your study. And within this universe, you will have to see the feasibility where you are staying, if there is a slum area nearby you, or you would have to travel a distance to visit the slum. Now, as many of you are working, many of you are engaged in different jobs. So, we suggest that you take a topic that is feasible, that is accessible, and that you can complete within a period of 15 to 20 days of field work. So, based on your availability, you will select a topic, and based on that topic, you would conduct your field work. So, you should know what kind of area would be easily accessible to you. Now, if you are working in an organization, you can conduct your field work in the very same organization. However, you would have to take the necessary permissions from that organization before you begin your field work. So, keeping in mind the accessibility and feasibility of the location, of the availability of the participants to spend time with you, to interact with you, you can select a topic. And based on the selection of topic, we have what we call as the universe of study. Now, for example, if you say you are going to work in a slum area of Delhi, so what would be your universe of study? The universe of study in this case would be the slum area. And what would be the unit of study? The unit of study would be Delhi. But again, within Delhi, which part of Delhi are you going to conduct the study? You will have to specify that in your unit of study. Now, let me give you here some examples from some of the earlier work that has been done in anthropology, some of the classical works in anthropology. First of all, let us take up the work of Bronislaw Malinowski. His work was on the Argonauts of the Western Pacific. In this work, he had worked among the Trobriand Islanders. So, the unit of study is the Trobriand Islanders, the villages of Trobriand Island. So, that is the universe of his study. Likewise, if we look at M.N. Srinivasa's work, which is on the Remembered Village, in this work, it is again a study of a village. So, the universe of study is the village. And however, the unit of study is Rampura, which was the space where he had conducted the study. It was in Mysore in Karnataka. Likewise, we have another example from Sarina Nanda's work. Sarina Nanda her work was titled Neither Man Nor Woman, quote unquote, the Hijras of India. Now, in this work, Sarina's universe of study would be gender plus a particular gender within that work among a particular community or gender community. Then, when we talk about quote unquote the hijras, we see that in her work, she had worked at 3 different places. Her study areas were Bombay, Delhi and Ahmedabad. So what do we see here? That her unit of study was scattered across different cities. What do we call this kind of studies as? This kind of studies are known as multi-sited study. So while selecting your topic, you can also go for a multi-sited study. However, for the dissertation, we would request you not to go for a multi-sited study as the time frame is only for 15 to 20 days. So within that time frame, you have to finish your work. So in this regard, select a topic which is easily accessible to you. So that is one of the criterias. Now, the third component when we are talking about the universe of study, the unit of study is the sample size. What is sample size? How important is sample size in an anthropological study? Now, anthropological study can either be quantitative study or qualitative study. If it is a quantitative study, you will need a sample size. For example, if you are trying to find out how many people in a village are engaged in the Manrega program, then you would need a sample size. Likewise, if you have selected a topic from physical anthropology and you want to measure the height and weight of a particular age group. Now, within a village, if you are going to measure the height and weight of a particular age group, there also you would need a sample size. But for selecting such topics, again, you have to be careful and understand whether you have the anthropometric rod with you or not. How you would access or how you are going to measure the height and weight of the people. Now, someone might say that we can use a measuring tape to measure the height of a person. But in anthropological parlance, it is incorrect. You need an anthropometric rod, which is a basic requirement for the investigation of height. And likewise, you would need the weighing scale to weigh a person. So, if these tools are at your disposal, if you have them with you, you can select such topics and then decide on the sample size. Otherwise, we suggest that you go with a topic which is more easily accessible to you. And when we talk about qualitative studies, we normally do not need a sample size, because in a qualitative study, what we are interested in is understanding of the narratives of the people regarding a particular topic that you have selected. And when we are talking about narratives, we do not go for sample size, but what we go for is a life history or a case history, or we even trace the genealogy of a particular community. So these are the aspects that you have to select while you are selecting the sample size if need be. The other important aspect is finding a hypothesis. Do we need a hypothesis in the synopsis? Do we have to put a hypothesis in the synopsis? Again, the hypothesis depends upon the type of study that you are going to do, whether it is a qualitative study or a quantitative study. If it is a quantitative study, you can go for 2 to 3 hypotheses, but not more than that. Do not go for 10-15 hypotheses. It is not required. You can find out the reasons that you are looking for through 2 or 3 hypotheses. Now, These are the first criteria for writing your synopsis. After you have decided on the universe of study, the unit of study, the sample size, next important component would be literature review. What is literature review? Literature review is basically finding out what work has been done in the area, the topic that you have selected. How are you going to conduct literature review? The best way to go for literature review is to visit a library. But many of you might say that you do not have access to library. So in such a case, we would suggest that you use the internet. However, you have to be cautious when you are looking for articles on the internet. There would be 101 articles that would be related to your subject. For example, if you write slums of Delhi, you will see that the slums of Delhi have been studied by economists. You will see that the slums of Delhi have been studied by other subjects also, like social work department, like public administration, political science, etc. Now, all these departments would have their own perspective of looking at the slums. The economist would look at the slums from the economical point of view. The social work would look at it from their perspective. However, you have to remember that your work is housed within anthropology. So you will look for resources that deals with anthropology, that deals with slum areas as an anthropological study. So when you are looking for your literature review, you have to be careful and go for sites that are marked like JSTOR. JSTOR is one site which you can access for online literature review. So these would help you to read into more work, and if you have access to Ignou library, you can find many books, many works on anthropology in Ignou that would relate to your subject. So use the internal library resources also when you are doing your literature review. Now, after literature review, what would be the next point that you are going to talk about in your synopsis? It is methods, tools and techniques. How you are going to conduct your field work. Going to the field is very easy, but once you enter the field, what are the things that you have to take note of? That is also important. How you are going to conduct the interviews, how you are going to observe the people, and what you are going to write about them. Here, you have to be cautious that you do not look at the society from your understanding of a society or perspective. You have to understand the society from their everyday lived experiences. You have to draw your inferences from what you have seen in the field, what the participants have talked about in the field, and how the participants feel in the field. It is not your interpretation, but the interpretations that would come from the interviews that you are going to conduct. The interviews can be both formal and informal interviews. Likewise, when we talk about going to the field, the other important aspect is observation. What kind of observation you do in the field. There is a difference between looking at things and there is a difference and of observing. When you observe, you closely reckon to what is happening. You are not just looking at the thing, but you are trying to rationalize why that particular thing is happening. For example, if you are there in a field and you are observing a ritual. Now, in the ritual, there will be many things that would be happening. So, behind the ritual, say for example, a death ritual. If in a death ritual, you see the offering to the ancestors, you have to understand the rationale behind this offering. It is not simply seeing and recording. It is also rationalizing why they are doing it. When offerings are made to the ancestors, in most societies, it is for the salvation of the soul so that it can move from our land to the next land without any hindrances or without any obstacles. So you have to understand the logic behind the rituals also. In observations, there are three different kinds of observations: participant observation, quasi-participant observation, and non-participant observation. However, in the field situation, we normally go for quasi-participant observation. We have talked about interviews and life histories. So this you have to make clear in your synopsis, among them which tools or techniques you are going to use. And then finally, we come to ethics in the field. When you are in the field, there has to be many ethical considerations that you have to take care of. First of all, why you are in the field, what you are doing in the field, how you are going to use the material from the field. This has to be made clear to the people under study. You cannot just enter a field and start documenting their everyday lives or their activities. You have to first interact with them, build trust, and thereafter move on with your which is known as rapport building. And once the rapport is built, you can move on with your data collection. So these are the aspects that you are going to mention in your synopsis. And you will also mention how you are going to analyze your data, what you are going to do with your data in your synopsis. And this entire activity you are going to do with the help of your mentor. When you are writing your synopsis, you will have to have a discussion with your mentor at every stage, so that you are in sync with your mentor and the mentor knows what you are planning to do and how you are planning to move ahead with your synopsis. Writing a synopsis is one of the most important aspects that you would conduct before going to the field and before you start collecting data in the field. Now, once your synopsis is ready, what are you going to do with this synopsis? Let's have a look at it. So, once you are done with your synopsis, once you have written your synopsis, you have taken the consent of your mentor, you will have to submit your synopsis via email. And before you submit your synopsis via email, please create an email ID under your own name. Like if your name is Rajendra Prasad, open a Gmail account under the name Rajendra Prasad, and then you write a note that this is synopsis for your dissertation course, your enrollment number, your regional center, your study center, and then the mentor's name also and the topic that you have selected, and then you submit this via the email. So for Bachelor of Science Honors in Anthropology, your email ID is bscanh@ignou.ac.in. Your email ID is bscanh@ignou.ac.in. And for the master's program, your email ID is maan@ignou.ac.in. Now, one of the important thing that you have to remember when you are sending your synopsis via email is that you would also attach the consent form that has been signed by your mentor. The consent forms are also available on eGyan-Kosh under your particular program and course. So when you go to eGyan-Kosh for BSc Honors in Anthropology in the 6th semester, when you check your dissertation manual BANE 154, you will see the consent forms there. Download the consent forms, get it signed by your mentor, and make sure that the title of the synopsis is correct. Many a times we receive the title of the synopsis does not match with what has been signed by the mentor. The consent form title of the synopsis and the synopsis title should be same. It cannot be different titles. So make sure this is done when you are doing your consent form from the mentor. Now, this has to be attached with your synopsis. Do not forget to attach this consent form. Until and unless we receive the consent form, your synopsis is invalid, because we will have to recheck the mentor with the synopsis. So remember to send in the consent form signed by your mentor. Now, after the synopsis has been approved, what are the steps you are going to take? There would be comments on your synopsis approval. So, according to the comments, you are to modify your synopsis. There would be certain comments. There might be comments on the sample size. There might be comments on the unit of study, anything. And there might be even comments on the type of tools and techniques that you have selected. So based on those comments, you will first modify your synopsis and then you will commence for your fieldwork. The fieldwork has to be for 15 to 20 days. And once the fieldwork is completed, during the fieldwork, what are the things you are going to do? You are going to build a rapport with the people. You are going to collect the data from the people in the form of interviews, using interview schedules. The interviews can be both formal and informal interviews. You can even have case studies in your interviews and even life histories included in your interviews. So after you have collected the data in the field, the next step would be to analyze the data and to write the report. Once the report is written, you will submit your dissertation. But always remember that before you write the synopsis, you have to read the manual, understand each and every step that has been mentioned in the manual, and accordingly you have to work on your writing the synopsis. So, once your synopsis has been approved, once you have done your fieldwork, then you can write the synopsis with your mentor's guidance. You can analyze your data, and finally you can submit your synopsis to your dissertation to the regional center, or even via the online portal that we have in Ignou. And remember to attach the copy of the email of the synopsis approved by the program coordinator, and also keep a receipt of the submission of the dissertation for your records. And finally, once your synopsis is submitted, you will have your viva, and that is the end of your work. However, we have certain expectations from you. You would conduct a fieldwork for 15 to 20 days, and above all, the synopsis and the dissertation would be an original write-up. And with that, we end our session here. Thank you.